here in Siembra with myself, Yazmin Ford, host of the show Siembra. Today is July 9th of 2023. And we also, the year is going so fast. I mean, I can't believe we are already in the 7th month of the year. So, and we here in Washington State. I like to tell people Washington State because a lot of times when you say Washington, people think it's DC. We're in the Washington State, Pacific Northwest, beautiful Pacific Northwest. We got into the full mode of summer here, and it's beautiful. Beautiful. Just having the it's not too hot for me. I don't think it's that hot, but just having all the water that we have. The name of Seattle, Washington, is because we are so surrounded by water that I love that feature here in the state. And we're here in Washington State, Tacoma, Washington, right in the middle of downtown Tacoma. And then we have our guests in the other side of the screen. You are not new. You're already part of this house. You've been here a couple times, and I just want to welcome you, Kris. Good morning. How are you doing? Thank you for getting up so early and sitting here with me this morning. How are you doing today? I see your flag in the back too.
Very, very well. Thank you, love. I'm just delighted to receive the invitation to visit with you again, especially on this occasion and on this topic, since we just had a Tacoma Pride yesterday. And I wanted timely topic.
And I wanted to go. I was telling Christian, I would say, I wanted to go to the parade. It's the biggest one in the nation. Washington State has the bigger one. And Washington State, it started in 1970. And more than 300,000 people participate in this parade. It's just crazy. I wanted to go, but then you drive into Seattle, they should have public transportation for free and events like that, so people could just take the bus instead of have to be driving and trying to figure out where you're gonna park and how much money you're gonna pay for parking. So I didn't went, but I have a friend that he is not part of the community, but he loves to go. He's like, oh my God, I love to go.
It's a love fest. It's
yes.
Wonderful. The one yesterday in Tacoma is a much smaller event. Oh, there are a lot of people there. It's shoulder to shoulder later on.
Yes.
It doesn't have we don't have a parade here in Tacoma at all, but we do have a flag raising, and we have the festival that happened yesterday. And it was just a love fest. It was just so wonderful to be out among everybody.
So I want you, for people that don't know you, to just give us a little review, tell us a little bit about you, who you are. I know you transitioned. To just tell us a little bit about you, Kris.
Okay. Most people know me. I wear another hat. Most people know me because I'm a Star Trek fan, and DeForest Kelley, who was Dr. McCoy on the original Star Trek.
Okay. We have a Star Trek. We have a Star Trek fan right here. A Christian is a Star Trek.
Anyhow, he launched my writing career when I was 18 years old, and
he's gonna Kris. He's gonna say something.
Let me correct Yazmin, because I'm sorry. No, I'm a Star Wars fan.
Oh, Star Wars.
That's a different one. Yes.
I'm sorry.
So we have to be clear, because that's something big for the a science fiction community. So.
Most Star Trek fans are Star Wars fans, and most Star Wars fans are Star Trek fans.
They're very territorial.
And George Lucas and Gene Roddenberry were always complimenting each other. So I don't consider it a war. I just consider it, what do you prefer? So anyhow.
Yes, so you were telling me a little bit about
you. Mm-hmm. And most of my books are about DeForest Kelley, because we developed a very, very close friendship. And at the end of his life, I became his caregiver and personal assistant. So most people know me from that. But I wear my other really passionate hat that I wear is being an advocate for marginalized communities. And it also happens that I am part of a marginalized community, actually two, women and transgender. So my story, this would be my father's 96th birthday. I want to mention that.
Oh, happy birthday.
Because now he had no sons, but he thought he had no sons. But I want to read the back cover of my book, Womb Man, How I Survived Growing Up in a Booby Trap World, because it's about a conversation my dad and I had. When I was 32, I did something that made my father immensely proud. Spontaneously, he proclaimed, "That's my boy." Immediately realizing his error, he shot a panicked look at me, eyes wide with horror. Equally shocked, but catching my breath, I responded, "It's all right, Dad." And it really was all right, because for the first time in my life, I felt recognized for who I really was, a remarkable man. We never spoke of it again, but I began to wonder why it had taken Dad 32 years to get me, or had it. Did he know something I didn't? And if he did, why was he keeping it a secret? Was I born intersex and surgically altered as an infant to meet gender norms, which was the default solution in the 50s when I was born for ambiguously gendered babies? They were called hermaphrodites back then. Or am I naturally transgender, a man housed in a female body? There are countless people like me who don't fit gender norms. Many feel the need to hide who they are, to exist without being scolded as strange or feared as foreign. You probably know many of them. They just might not trust you enough to tell you. Something needs to change. I hope my own story helps that happen. And an author and speaker, Joy Shane Lauder, wrote about my book. Kris Smith's writing is powerful and funny without being mean, compassionate and courageous without asking for a scrap of pity. This is the transgender life story you want to give to your teen and preteen, your grandmother, pastor, congressman, barista, and school counselor. And Linda Lean, who has an MA in psychology and a BA in education, wrote, Kris's story gives voice to the complexity of gender assignment and gender identity. A must read for everyone, including those who are secure in their own gender identity. Chances are we all know someone who is struggling and could use support. Kudos to Kris for bravely and openly sharing her personal story. That's a quick, description. But I knew from the time I was tiny, well before hormones kicked up, I want to say transgender has nothing to do with sexual orientation. It's a gender orientation. Of the LGBTQIA, the acronym, all of those other things are sexual orientations, lesbian, gay, bi, The T is not a sexual orientation, it's a gender orientation. The difference is sexual orientation prompts you as to who you want to go to bed with. Okay? Gender orientation prompts you as to who you want to go to bed as.
Oh, wow.
Okay? So from a very young age, I knew I was a boy. And it's so hard to explain to someone who is not transgender. People who are called cisgender, we do cis and trans because we don't want to say people who are normal. No, transgender is normal too. But we came up with this scientific cisgender, meaning the person who is born in their body, feels comfortable in their body, knows they're a girl or knows they're a boy. And transgender means you feel like you were parked in the wrong vehicle. Your mind is, we have to remember gender is in the mind more than it is in the body. Your mind tells you who you are. And people can call you daughter and girl. And a lot of kids at a very young age will start saying, Mommy, I'm not a girl, I'm a boy. Or they'll say, and then they'll start calling people tomboys. Now, some tomboys are just tomboys. They're little girls who grow out of that. And so you don't want to be doing anything, and it's illegal to do anything early on, hormones or surgery.
And that is the fight today in Florida. And I'm kind of confused in the sense because they keep saying that and I know that this is basically narrative that we have 13-year-olds and 10-year-olds that are being already taken the surgery that I personally I feel that is kind of too young to do any kind of surgery, because even in Argentina and in Spain there was an article saying about girls already doing augmentation in the breast, and I said wait a minute, and 10 and 13 years old, that is too young. You should at least wait till when you're 18 to decide you want to have a bigger breast. So I'm thinking for any kind of surgery like that, I think 13 and 10 is too young, but that's me personally,
And it's total disinformation. You cannot have surgery, period, cannot have it. It is illegal until you reach the age of consent, 18 years old. They can start prescribing hormones to you, so that if you have been diagnosed, again, you have to jump through all these hoops. You have to go to a counselor. They have to diagnose you. Your regular doctor and a transgender doctor and a psychologist all have to confirm, by gosh, this person is transgender. They have to jump through all these hoops, and then finally, if they all agree, and the parent consents, because again, it's up to the parent, the kid can't consent for themselves. Only after they've jumped through those hoops do they even prescribe hormones to keep the secondary characteristics, the growth of the breast, the growth of the male organ from developing, so that at 18 they can then they won't have such a horrendous surgery to remove what grew. Okay. Another interesting thing that I've learned is that back in the 50s, they almost never told the parent when they had an intersex child. Almost never told them. They just did the thing and they said, you have a girl. And because they didn't want to give parents these conflicting things, it's like, if you raise her as a girl, she'll never know the difference. Well, yes, the brain is what determines who you are. And so I know an MRI technician, just a recently retired MRI technician, and she said, I can't tell you the number of people I've had in the MRI, men with ovaries, women with cryptorchids. We have people, and I said, did you tell them? She says, no, I'm not allowed to tell them. I said, did their doctors tell them? I mean, that's kind of important. And in most cases, they don't let you know. But Judy, and I've known Judy literally since I was about 7 years old. And she said to me, Kris, I always knew your entire life there was something about you that was different that I couldn't put my finger on. It was something. And she said, when you wrote Womb Man and I read it, I went, oh my God, that's it. She's a guy.
So let's get in a little bit into the part of, and it's very interesting what you're saying, because the doctors, how it is that you get a community of doctors and the government, because at one point they said, we don't want big government, and we don't want government to tell us how to live our life, and we don't want government to tell us this or that. But how do you get legislators, and how do you get people to legislate and people to govern in these things that are so complex as human being and so personal as a family? Because I have a baby that is intersex, and I was reading a little bit about the different definitions. I think at the end of the day, it should be me, my partner, my husband, my wife should sit and talk and decide what we want to do with our baby, how we want to.
I agree, but I also think most countries don't even allow surgery on intersex children. They've just disallowed it. They said, no, you wait till that little being grows up and tells you who they are, and then we'll work on surgeries. Because deciding what your child is going to be is not working. They did this without parental consent when I was a kid.
But I'm thinking autonomy is one of the God-given rights.
Absolutely.
You
Absolutely.
know,
That's why I say I don't think parents should decide for
Yes.
intersex children either. I think the child should be left alone. And yeah, it's hard. You don't know what. Give them an androgynous name so that they don't have to change their name. Thank God my name is Kris. So that they can grow up and go, oh, this is who I am.
Oh, with my son, one of the things that I tell you this, and I'm going a little bit off.
Okay.
But with my son, I remember we never celebrated Halloween, and there was 2 reasons why I didn't. And my ex-husband would say, "Well, this is the way we do it here in the United States." I said, "Well, I'm not gonna have my son celebrate Halloween." The part was the religious part that I still have it embedded in me, and the second part was that I really didn't know the story behind the celebration, and I just didn't want my son to participate in something that he fully didn't know where it came from. I wanted him to, so when he grew up a couple of years ago, when he was in his 16, 17 years old, he was like, I was like, you can go celebrate Halloween now. He's like, yeah, right, Mom. Now? I said, because now you entitled to go and figure out. You can find out what it exactly is, where it came from, why they're celebrating it, what the history behind it. But I don't want you to be a follower. I told him, I don't want you just to follow things because everybody's doing it and not know why. I want you to question things. And then if you think, yeah, I want to do this, you can do it. You don't want to do it, that's fine. But you yourself know what is the story. And I think I'm thinking that's what I'm thinking.
You're a great mom.
I was thinking, at the time he didn't think I was, because I wouldn't let him go out and do the candy stuff. But for me, was more important for him to say, just don't follow. Not because everybody's doing it. Is you're going to do it, at least you know why and the story behind it. And I think it's the same thing with, this is so complex. When we talking about human beings, it is so complex and at the same time so beautiful, because I think for me, God is in the middle of all of this, in the sense that he decided to create this that we said, I like to call it gray area, that it shouldn't be a gray area. It should be just a color, just like the regular colors. But we go from white, for men decided to go from white to black. And nothing in the middle. And God said, no, this is not how I created life. This is not our creation. This is not creation. Creation is very complex. There's different side to it, different colors to it. This is not just black and white. But men wants us to think this is just white and black. Or it's either this or that, and that's it.
Yeah, and I think your story about Halloween is wonderful, because what we're told as children, we're little sponges. We just take it all in. We don't have the ability to discern what's propaganda and malarkey and what's happening. And one thing that happened in this country and some other Western cultures is that, first of all, let me tell you a little bit of background. And I got this from NPR. On nearly every continent, probably except Antarctica, okay? And for all of recorded history, thriving cultures have recognized, revered, and integrated more than 2 genders. So terms like transgender, gay, they're strictly new constructs that assume 3 things. There are only 2 sexes, as many as 2 sexualities, gay and straight, and only 2 genders. But hundreds of distinct societies around the globe have their own long-established traditions for 3rd, 4th, 5th, and more genders. The subject of 2 Spirits, a documentary, Fred Martinez, for example, was not a boy who wanted to be a girl, but both a boy and a girl, an identity his Navajo culture recognizes and reveres. And Hina of Kumahina is part of a native Hawaiian culture that has traditionally revered and respected those who embody both male and female spirits. They're called two-spirit. And I could maybe embrace the idea of two-spirit, except that, for myself, except that I think if I wasn't raised a girl, I'm not sure I would have been two-spirit. I think I would have been very, very male. I'm fortunate that in one way that I was never told, I had plastic horses, I had soldiers, I had building tools, whatever I wanted as a toy, I got from my parents. They never told me I couldn't. No, you're a girl, you can't have that. But I did develop the empathy, the sympathy, the ability to put myself in another person's shoes that often is trained into young girls, that isn't necessarily trained into young boys. They're trained to compete, to outdo, to wrestle, to arm, to do that kind of
More
stuff.
physical
We are
things.
trained to nurture and listen and care and construct.
But do you think this is not part of our, and I was talking to some ladies yesterday. We was talking about this because we was talking about some people, as soon as they come out of the womb, they know already you already know what is wrong. There is just some people that
I know what,
like,
I don't call it wrong, different.
I don't say like wrong, like I'm just saying, like, I will, for me, my spirit, I already came out with I won't want to say combat it, but I already will speak out of things that I thought it was wrong. When everybody will be walking around these things, you know what I mean? You
Well,
going
what?
into
As part of a marginalized community, two of them, Black and female, we learn to survive, and we survive by speaking up.
Yes, I will.
Those who don't, I mean, they get trafficked and they get all kinds of stuff, because if they can, I'm afraid, a lot of men will take advantage of a person's silence.
I was
learn to speak up.
And
Those who survive.
And I feel like I almost, in my family, there was the troublemaker, because she's gonna, I would ask questions and I would point out things that nobody wanted to talk about. And I think for some human beings, we already come into the world with this, that there's no way I can live like this with this inside of me, so you had to somehow speak up about it.
I think we have also, this is another topic, I think we also have a genetic memory. Our DNA remembers what our ancestors have gone through, and a lot of cultures absolutely believe this. And I do too. We are the result of people who've struggled, who have been in intense situations, and the DNA of those who survived are survivors. And so we are born with the tenacity to say no.
It's funny that you said that, because lately I've been thinking a lot about my grandmother. I never met my grandmother from my mother's side, so my mother is an orphan. And I just feel that for some reason I am carrying some things that I'm carrying some of her traits, even though I don't know.
Trauma.
Yes.
You do not have to have gone through it to feel it, because it's in your DNA. And you have empathy. You can put yourself there and walk in their shoes and go, oh, I get that.
And I did, because at first it started me saying, well, who will give up their child? And I was kind of judgmental at first, and then as I start developing this empathy for her, and as a woman, a Black woman giving up her child, I started to grow into loving her, even though I never met her. I know I'm not going to. She's most likely dead. But I started thinking a lot about her and what she went through and the hard decision that she had to make. And I am thinking in my life, there has generations that skip too, but the generations that kind of connect to, even though you don't know. So for this time of in history and this time in the world, we finding out that people are talking about the LGBT community. I want to talk a little bit about that. Mm-hmm. That they talk about it like it's something new, but it's not new. No. I was walking out there, I was thinking, this is not new. This has always existed, but for some reason today we feel like there's an influx, like there's
an increase.
Yes.
No, it's just that people are no longer afraid to come out and say, this is who I am. We have to remember this nation was founded by Puritans and people who had very strict notions of what was godly and what was not. Mm-hmm. And so they have, again, this binary, male, female, man, woman, but most other cultures don't. So what we have to remember, what you're taught as a child is what you tend to grow up believing until you're given other information. You are not responsible for the programming you picked up, the downloads mm-hmm. when you were a kid, mm-hmm. but you are responsible for installing the upgrades. So those people who shut their minds, put on blinders and say, no, it's only this way, they are not looking beyond our own culture to see the huge rainbow of differences that have been embraced for millennia, for absolute millennia. We are trying to fit square pegs into round holes and round holes into square pegs.
Yeah. And I'm thinking, it's
only been the last since I've been alive where people are like, no, I'm going to talk about this because this is important, and people shouldn't be in boxes and they shouldn't be in closets. People should be able to be their full human.
That's why I wanted to read this. I just got this. I wanted to read it. It says right here, many Americans refrain from talking about sexual orientation and gender identity or expression because it feels so taboo, or because they are afraid of saying the wrong thing. This glossary was written to help give people the words and meaning to help make conversations easier, more comfortable about the LGBT people. LGBT plus people use a variety of terms to identify themselves, not all of which are included in this glossary. Always listen for and respect a person's self-identify terminology.
Right.
Okay, and then we have ally. I don't know why ally, term used to describe someone who is actively supportive of the LGBT people. Right. It encompasses straight and cisgender allies, as well as those within the LGBT plus community who mm-hmm. support each other. Lesbians right. who is an ally to a bisexual community. Asexual, we have asexual, we have biphobia, we have, and I'm not reading all
right.
the
bisexual,
gender queer, we have homophobia, intersex, we have gender binary, we have gender.
I have a glossary at the end of my book, and that's pretty inclusive too.
It says here gender expansive, gender expression, right. Gender fluid, lesbian.
Here's another thing. Because of the patriarchy that we live in, it seems easier for people assigned female at birth like me, people mm-hmm. who were thought to be females. It's much easier for me to dress like a guy without anybody saying boo about it. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's no big deal. It's like we all dress, they call it unisex, but mm-hmm. If I put on pants and a shirt or a tie, nobody's really going to have a cow. It's the people who, especially people of color, who are trans women who get killed. And this is why. The reason why is racism, and the reason why is no man can understand in a million years why they would give up the privilege and the power and the prestige and the catbird seat they exist in to become, in quotes, become a woman. They just can't get there. Which is another point about why transgender is not a choice. Most men would not choose to be women. They just know they are women, and they are now insisting, I am a woman.
And I to my not defense, I have to say that I do question that too, because for me, wearing bra and wearing heels, it's just, I would rather not wear those things, you know. So right. I kind of question it. I realize, like, what?
Everybody's different. Everybody's different.
Yes. Yes, because I have to say,
people are girly girls, and some trans men are girly girls.
Yes. So I have to say that in that sense, I do think about that way. I'm like, oh, as soon as I get home, I want to take my bra off. Why would I even want to? Yeah. Why would I even want breasts? You know?
Yeah, I get you. One of the neat things about going to a pride festival or whatever is you see trans women and you see drag queens, and they're beautiful, absolutely beautiful, and some of them don't pass well, but it's just like, this is who I am, please treat me like a woman. All they're saying is treat me like who I am. They're not in your face, they're not trying to jump on your kids. They are trying to be who they genuinely are.
I think the biggest thing here for me is I don't have to understand it, and I don't think I should be walking around as a woman, as a black woman, as an Afro-Latina woman, trying to ask people to accept me. I am who I am, and
Correct.
That's it.
Correct.
Whatever you accept me or not, I'm in this point of my life that I am. You got to deal with your issues.
That it's always
you got to deal with your issues, because I'm not going nowhere. Yeah. And I'm thinking that's where we at today. That's
exactly what everybody else wants. Just accept me for who I am.
But
infinite diversity and infinite combinations. I don't want you to be me. I don't want to be you. We want to be uniquely who we are. Each of us is a unique treasure, a unique gem in this world, and we have unique things to bring.
I went walking and this week, and I was looking at all the flowers, the wildflowers that there were just existing with each other, little white flowers, yellow flowers, purple flowers. And I don't know, I sit down, I was thinking, and I said, how beautiful it is that nature, for some reason, gets it. Nature gets it.
Nature gets it.
Yes, nature gets it. Nature learn these little flowers are not trying to push one to each other or outgrow each other to be the center or to be the top of yes.
Yeah.
And what is that for human beings? We can't get it. I mean, I was thinking, how beautiful. They're so different, but they live in and existing in the same and not trying to overdone each other. And for human being, is just crazy.
Again, it's a cultural thing, because do you know about the Ubuntu philosophy in Africa?
No.
Ubuntu means whatever, we are all one is basically what it means. And that they don't do, in the Ubuntu ideology, they don't compete. If you're going to do a race, they would all grab hands and run together. If there's only so much food, they all share it. It's very, it's what we were originally in order to be able to survive. We were a community. And in shamanic communities and a lot of Native American communities, if someone would become depressed or in any way, in quotes, antisocial, not for the tribe, they never ostracized them, they never exiled them, they never, they all gathered around and said, what can we do?
Yes.
And if that difference was not like the Two Spirit, if that difference was of benefit to the tribe, they embraced it. So I want to tell one thing. A lot of people say, gee, at what age do I tell my children about LGBT? A lot of the stuff about schools is, no, we don't want kids to even hear about LGBTQ until they're, in middle school. That's too late.
It's too late.
Because there are little kids, but I got this off the internet. It said, tonight my daughter, she's 8 years old, asked me, what does LGBTQ mean? And before I could answer her, my mom said she doesn't need to know about that. I told my daughter the L is for lesbian, which is romantic love between two women. The G is for gay, which is romantic love between two men. The B is for bi, which is when someone has romantic love for both men and women. The Q is for questioning or queer, which is when someone understands they are not hetero. And the T is for when someone transitions from one gender to another, so they are living in their true form and true to their heart. All of this is about love, how people find love in the world and how people love themselves for who they are. Aurora, my daughter, said, I understand, that's really beautiful. Part of breaking unhealthy cycles in family structure is talking to your children and teaching them love and understanding and breaking old stigmas and misinformation. I understand that some people of older generations think that it's about sex. But the question my daughter asked wasn't about sex. It was about love.
I think one of the things that as human beings, we try to simplify everything. And life is not simple. Nothing is simple. Nothing, like I said before, is black and white. And I think having two genders make it so simple. Anything in between then complicates everything. I think we are very complex as human beings. The Bible says that we are uniquely creative. And I don't remember the scripture. Oh, you probably could help me with this scripture.
Created and wonderfully made.
Yes. And I'm thinking of that scripture, and I'm saying God said, no, I'm not duplicating human beings. They might look the same on the outside, but on the experiences, the feelings, the way they feel and see the world is for everybody is going to be different. And I think we don't understand that I'm more than what you see. When you tell me that basically I have to choose my gender based on sex, it's to me is sex is just a very important part in your life, but it's just a part of my life, just like going to the bathroom that is necessary, or eating that is necessary, but it's not who I am as a whole. So even the terminologies that says, well, we are going to define who you are based on your sexual preference, I don't think that should be right. But I don't know. I don't think it should be right to do that, because I'm not only about sex. There's more to me than you kind of just identifying me based on my sexual preference. To me, that's offensive. Basically, to me, it would be, because sex is not everything. It's just a part of my human being need as a human.
Here's the way I explain that in my book. Am I the only person on the planet who thinks there's a heck of a lot more to one's love life than what happens between the sheets? One of the things that bothers me most about Americans in particular is the inordinate amount of time we spend hyper-focusing on foreplay in the media. Advertisers promote and encourage heterosexual activity by undressing our bodies to within an inch of au natural, while other factions attack the images as pornographic, objectification, or ungodly. As far as I can tell, there's nothing ungodly about the human body. What seems unholy to me is the way we've all been led by our society to think about it. But all too often, whenever puritanical cisgender folks think about LGBTQ individuals, they seem to be consumed by what goes on between the sheets and being offended by it. I always want to turn the tables and ask them to dissect and explain in glorious detail what goes on in their bedrooms so I can be offended too. But here's the thing, probably 98% of a committed couple's love life goes on outside the sheets. The long leisurely walks, lacing fingers together, the shared joys, the easy laughter, the unspoken shared memories.
It's more of that. It's connection. It's human connection.
As soon as our empathetic, sympathetic natures manage to overrule our voyeuristic tendencies, it's a whole lot easier to grasp the importance and the significance of the absolute miracle that two individuals somehow discovered each other despite the crush of diverse, extended humanity, and that they resonated so to each other that they wanted to be together, stay together, play together, live together, and hopefully die together as one. That's a beautiful thing. You know, why anyone feels the need to drive wedges because they don't like or love the way you do is beyond me. I cannot imagine why anyone would object to love, mutual support, and commitment because of what goes on between the sheets. Please.
And I wanted to read. I want you to talk a little bit about how is this is becoming politicized. And how the church, I was talking to, and you know this lady, I was talking to Yolanda yesterday.
Yes.
And I was talking to her because I told her when I became a U.S. citizen, the first chance that I had to vote, it was like 2 years after I became that I had the chance to vote, and I voted for Bush. And I had friends that told me, I said, you are the only black person in the United States that I know that I voted for Bush. They were so mad at me but voting for Bush. But at the time, I was going to church, and the church that I was going to. The pastors, for some reason, they politicize too.
Absolutely.
They use, and they don't tell you with who to vote, but they tell you all these different issues about these candidates that they use a puppet to do that, and then throw it out there so the people from church say, well, no, I'm not. And for me, it was today I would say I was a little bit embarrassed to say, but I just picked that the pastor throw, and then it went beyond and researching what this person he is about. So you just pick those two subjects, that is the LGBT community and abortion, and that's it. And you don't look at all the policies that person is, you don't look at all the things that person did internationally, all the things that these politicians does. And the church knows that. They know that you're gonna just take it. I was embarrassed because I said I didn't do my diligent work to find out who. But I just
since though, have you?
Yes. So I did vote for him, and I remember today how it is that the church said separation church, state and church, but this is just a word. The church has so much to do. They are just entwined. They embed. They are lovers. Yes. The politics and religion is love relationship. When that is it. And so tell me a little bit about politics and the church, and today, how are they using?
They've been doing this
Yes.
since probably the 70s. They had the moral majority. They had focused on the family. All of these far right, very patriarchal.
I used to listen to Focus on the Family
Yes.
with Dawson, James something.
Dobson.
Yes.
James Dobson, yeah. They all got together, and Barry Goldwater, a Republican, said many years ago, good God, if these evangelicals ever get a foot up in politics, we are screwed.
Yeah.
And it has happened. That's what they do. These are called wedge issues. These are issues that they can inflame people's passions. They can call LGBTQ people groomers without any factual basis. How many priests and pastors are being thrown in jail? How many LGBTQ people have you seen thrown in jail for that? No. What they're doing is they're projecting. They're saying, oh, I'll bet you they're doing that stuff we're doing, and we can get them on that. You know, so they got these wedge issues going on. They don't care about right to life. If they cared about right to life, they would care after the baby's born.
Exactly.
But after the baby's born, we also all of a sudden we have welfare mothers and people that they don't care about, and they won't raise them, they won't feed them, they won't.
No, they're cutting. They're not even that. They're cutting all the benefits to help these women that have these babies.
And you know, I mean, it's just, they're called wedge issues because they inflame people's passion. They ring their amygdala, the part of the brain that says danger, danger, Will Robinson. You know, that they keep them completely stirred up and afraid of the other, whoever the other is. If it's not a white male supremacist figurehead or their white counterparts, then you don't listen to them. You put blinders on. Everything those people there are saying are demons. You know,
so what do you think about all the policies basically in the South that's coming out from Florida? I have talked to my mom the other day, and she was like, what happened to Biden? I said, what do you mean? She said, no, Biden had all these gay people in the White House dancing. I said, oh my God, really? And the way she said it, it was like, maybe it was like almost like it sounds like a strip club of gay people in the White House. This sounds like that, you know.
Well, and again, because they put blinders on and they're kind of in a cult, they will not listen or see. You know, if there are gay people, what? So gay people were there. So what? So people were dancing. So what? I mean, even if it's true, so what?
I was
gay
like,
people dance, LGBTQ people dance.
I told her, I told her,
strong advocate for LGBTQ rights.
I told my mom, what it is you have against gay people? I mean, give me a break. What is it? She said, well, you know, the Bible. I said, I told her, we're not even going there. We're not going to do that. But the narrative is very, and the media is the heartbeat. I am more and more understanding, even with all the different streams and social media and technology, that media is the heartbeat of politics. You know,
the Bible has been hijacked, Yazmin.
Well, yes.
The Bible, because homosexuality, that word was only translated to homosexuality in 1948. They were talking in the Bible about these cultures that actually had like temple prostitutes who were servicing, you know, each other. The term, what we call homosexual, did not enter into that at all, you know.
And one of the things I was talking to somebody, I was saying I love the word, I love the Bible, I love, and one of the things is because I like to read. So, but as I started reading the Bible and getting into the Bible myself, not just encouraged by the church, I learned that you have to look at context. I learned that you have to look at the person who is writing it. I learned that you have to look at the person experience when because you write based on your personal experience.
On your culture. Yeah.
I learned about the time that it was wrote, and a lot of times when people talk about, even with Paul, when a lot of people say, well, is you want to serve God, you can't get married, and that's what the Catholic Church took what Paul said, and a lot of other churches that said, that this is God said in order to serve him you can't get married. And I said, who said that? It wasn't God, and if you follow Jesus didn't say that. Okay, so you have to look who said it. And
Jesus
Paul
didn't say a thing about homosexuality.
No. And why is
and last time I read the Bible, and I'm a Bible scholar, the last time I read the Bible, I understand that after Jesus came, we are now living in days of grace, which is unmerited favor, and we're not supposed to be judging other people. We're supposed to be loving other people.
And the New Testament that talks about homosexual stuff, I think it was Paul.
It was after Jesus. After Jesus.
But I think it was Paul or Peter that talked about. Yes, I'm thinking.
And Paul was a misogynist. He didn't want women preaching. He didn't want women even speaking up. I mean, Paul was not reflecting Jesus when he was out doing his thing. Just like anybody. What's happened to Martin Luther King since just in the short time he's been gone. Mm-hmm. We've got people grabbing his name and going off in all different directions that had nothing to do with what he said.
That is Martin Luther King would be here, they would not even like him. But they would not even like him.
He was talking about social justice.
Yes.
But they will take it, the far right will take it and run it in another direction. And that happened with Jesus.
But the thing with Paul is that I even when people said that, I said, and look at why he said not to get married, because he was saying, I want that freedom of doing what I want to do without having the family. You have to look at the people that wrote it. You can't, and Paul was he was a religious person before he became
he was a Pharisee.
Yes. Yeah. So so people said, no, but the Bible said it. I said, who said it? Mm-hmm. Who wrote it? Mm-hmm. You got to look and see who said it and who wrote it.
The Bible was written by patriarchal Middle Eastern people who apparently we all hate now. And and patriarchal Middle Eastern men, there is not a white person in the Bible. And yet they have taken the people, they have taken the Bible and said, oh yeah, black people are, for generations, they said black people have the mark of Cain on them and they should be slaves. And be happy slaves, be happy slaves. Again, that's all cultural. That's all.
So these politicians, we have the DeSantis, that I have another name for him, but I'm not gonna do this. And we have in Texas we have
Ken Abbott.
Yes, yeah. And we have, so how they weaponize all these. How is that put even? I was thinking, how is that help me find a job? How does that help me put food in my table? How does that help me? We went from 30% of our income going to mortgage and going to rent. Now we up 20%. That is 50% of our income going into the rent now, because mortgages on homes are so expensive. How is that helping me? How is that helping me when you decided to push back all the laws and stuff that was passed in Florida about gun rights? The little bit that they got to have passed, he went ahead and pushed it back. How is that help people? And I don't understand.
It isn't. They're just playing it on.
And again, I said I was there for a little minute, for a blink of an eye, You know, I open mine, close it, and the only thing they throw in the pulpit was about gay and the lesbian and gays and the abortion. But at the end, I said, wait a minute, what about the other things? What about the things that directly affect me? What do I care? Is he's going out with a man and he is a man? How does that affect me and help me?
Correct.
Right? And I don't think people
But you have
think
to remember
that
that's
way.
the Bible Belt, and it's racist and it's misogynistic. And those people are getting their amygdalans run every day about the black people are going to outnumber us soon. The Hispanics are going to outnumber us soon. Women are going to get so much power. You know what I think the next step for them is? You know what I think the next step for them is? What they're doing is they're chipping away one by one at the easiest things to get, just like Hitler did during the Nazi regime. And they're chipping away. And I think they're headed to remove the right to vote from women.
If
they could do that, they'd be all back in the catbird seat. It's women and black people who are keeping people moving forward.
And I might say something I'm not, and I say because I'm not. And you started the show saying Biden has done a lot. Yeah. I mean, employment went up 1.3 million jobs. He has put more women, more people of the LGBT community in the White House. More women of color is in his cabinet than ever in the history of the United States cabinet.
He's done everything he can, legally, to make to put us in better positions. Absolutely.
So he has done a lot, but at the same time, I'm gonna be the devil advocate here. The parts that I'm not really crazy is about the Supreme Court. Mm-hmm. He said, I'm not gonna change the composition of the Supreme Court. And basically what he's saying, I'm not going to change the amount of people that are in the Supreme Court. And he said the only thing other politicians were saying, people need to go out and vote so we can change what's going on in the Supreme Court. I said, me voting doesn't change anything that has to do with the Supreme Court. He either has to go in and put more people in there, or is he leave these people in there? This is what we're gonna end up with. Mm-hmm. And I don't like when they say that the Supreme Court is supposed to be nonpartisan. It's very far from being nonpartisan when we have the two big, parties are choosing these people to be there. So they're not working for us. They're working for these parties, that the Democratic Party and the Republican Party. That needs to be changed too.
Absolutely.
So I'm thinking, I'm not happy about that. I'm not happy
either.
Because I'm thinking, is any Republican go back to the White House? They're not gonna care. They're gonna put as much people they can in the Supreme Court to completely yes.
Trump alone put 3 of them there, which caused the whole thing to go the other direction. I agree with you. I mean, Biden he doesn't walk on water. He can't walk on water. He's very conscripted. But if there's any good news at all, Clarence Thomas is 75, and the other one, Scalia, is 72. And I doubt they will ever.
They're not going nowhere.
I doubt they will ever retire.
No, they're not going anywhere.
If there's a Democratic administration, then Barack Obama wanted to replace.
What's her name? The lady.
Ruth Bader Ginsburg.
And she said no.
They blocked it. The Republicans blocked it.
No, but she said no. He wanted to do it before she died.
Yes.
And she didn't want to leave it.
Right,
so those are the things that there has to be terms. Yeah. You can't sit in no job for 100 years.
And another thing would be to have ethics like all the other courts do, because these people are just doing horrible
they're
things.
sitting there like kings and queens. Yeah, they just so that's probably.
And they lied to get in. The 3 lied to get in. They said Roe v. Wade was settled law. Kavanaugh was a womanizer. I mean, you just, wow. And so was Clarence Thomas.
So the Supreme Court, I like to listen to Tom Harmon. I don't listen to him as much as I used to, but years and years, I've been listening to him forever. Yeah. Years and years ago, he started talking about the Supreme Court. He said the Supreme Court is people, we don't pay attention about the judges in this country are becoming like gods. And he was absolutely right. Yeah. He said the judges in this country, people don't see what's going on when they appoint judges left and right, but they are becoming like God, and it is true, So how is this change when it comes to the LGBT community? And we talking about Clarence Thomas, that he said when they did the Roe versus. He said we coming after the LGBT community. He said it.
Yeah.
So, the politics and how they weaponize these two things that are very complex when it comes to human beings.
That's the Nazi playbook of Germany.
We're talking about abortions, and we're talking about the LGBT community.
They are taking one by one the ones that are easiest to fall. And then pretty soon there will be nobody left to protest, and then they'll just start, eliminating people.
So, and I said President Biden has appointed so much. There's incredible amount of LGBT people in
diversity overall,
in this cabinet.
Yeah,
and a lot of women of color. And I was thinking, but is the Supreme Court is not change? How do you change things from the inside? Because and I think that's what a lot of the community is doing. So where we might have to just get in and be part. I have a friend that he's running for the Bethel School District, and you has to start doing that, to sit on the table and to change and to be visible and to change things. But
act locally, think globally.
Yes. So. My question to you is as a community, what would you tell community of the community of LGBT when it comes to visibility? I love, what's his name, Pete Buttigieg. I absolutely love him. I love him. And how do you tell more to get engaged and not to participate in these culture fights because they're really, what they're doing is also taking your eyes from the real goal. It's almost like keeping people entertained in these cultural fight, so you cannot really look at the goal and what they're really doing behind the scene.
I just suggest people maintain their integrity. If you're feeling like an advocate, wear a shirt like mine. I'm the scary transgender person the media warned you about. Because I go to Pride festivals and stuff, and I talk to people. I went to the very first Yelm Pride, and that's a very, very conservative area.
I know.
It was ringed with police officers, but there were Proud Boys there. There were protesting Christians there. And about every third person, okay, that's a slight exaggeration, about every seventh or eighth person says, oh my God, where did you get that shirt? I love that shirt. I want that shirt. Okay. And I think what we need to do is start wearing them, not just at pride parades, and let people know, here, somebody who is trans, somebody who is gay. The only thing with that is a lot of people don't feel comfortable enough to come out to their own families, because they can get 40% of the people who are houseless, they no longer call them homeless, but houseless, are LGBTQ members.
Say that amount again. How much?
40%.
Wow.
are people who have been thrown out of their houses. So those people, I mean, they got nothing else to lose and start wearing t-shirts. But however, they could get beat up on the streets because again, they've got the far right has people saying you're a demon, you're ungodly, you're this, that, and the other thing. It's a dangerous thing to do.
We don't.
It's more dangerous not to.
We don't hear, but we don't hear about those deaths. I know in the East Coast, there's been a lot of compared living in this country, New York. There's a couple trans women that has ended up dead in New York.
That's what I'm saying. I'm talking from a place of privilege. I'm a white transgender guy. Again, men can understand, in quotes, women wanting to be men. They cannot understand the other thing because you give up so much.
Yes.
And they know you do. But so that's what I say. Those of us who have the privilege and the ability to be able to do that, just be more transparent. I was, when I was at the Yelm Pride Festival, a gentleman came up to me and we had a short conversation, and he looked at me and he said, "You're the first transgender person I've ever met." And I said, no, I'm not. It's just most people don't wear them on the front of they don't wear t-shirts saying I'm transgender, because not everybody knows who they can trust to say that.
Yes.
You know, so it takes courage. It is not easy to be an out advocate, but the more people who are out, the more people realize, I know somebody who's trans. The minute I wrote my book, 4 of my friends came out as trans to me.
Wow.
They didn't know that I would be accepting. A woman who I had been editing a book for, she said, "My God, I feel so blessed because my daughter just came to me and she said she's a boy. What do I do?" And she was a Christian and she was like freaking out. And I said, take him to a counselor, have him diagnosed. You know, don't deny what he just told you. Seek to verify that.
So if you have to, is
like 7 or 8 years old, and he said, "Mom, I'm a boy," and it blew her mind. But I was able to help her through that and say, "Just love him. Just love him. He's still the same person. You have not lost anybody." She said, "I'm mourning losing a daughter." I said, "But you haven't lost him, and if you don't acknowledge him, you may lose him altogether."
Completely, yes. Now, how
people who don't have support at home have a much higher incidence of suicide.
Yeah, that was my other
Kris
question.
and Yazmin, I'm going to, if you don't mind, I'm going to read a couple comments that Erasmo Ruiz put here on the chat.
Okay.
So, because we're entering in the last part of the show, but Erasmo at the beginning, almost 52 minutes ago, said the Republicans said they want small government, yet want to regulate women's and trans people bodies.
Yes.
So that's one of the first comments. And then he said, I read about the type of trauma. It's called secondary trauma. When you were talking about that, Erasmo, also, if the churches and pastors wants to get political, then they can start paying taxes.
Yes. Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
let's do this for Erasmo then.
Yes.
And one more thing, I just want all of those of you who are like learning something new today, realize rumors can make you dislike innocent people. Don't judge people by what others are saying about them. Get to know some.
Yes.
And then form your opinion.
And
the one talking to you might be the person you need to stay away from. If they're trying to make you dislike or fear or whatever someone else, they may be fetishizing drag queens. I mean, a prepubescent child looks at a drag queen in the same way they look at Disney princesses. They're not turned on or turned off by them. They're just magical creatures, magical beings who are reading them a wonderful book, or you know, they're magic. They're Disney people to them. They're not grooming them.
And one of the things that I wanted to close with
Okay.
is to remind people that I started thinking, I think more and more about being part of this human race. Is everybody start thinking that we are bigger, we part of something bigger than it is. This tribal thing that we separate, and politicians, the whole point is to separate in order to conquer. But as we look at each other as a whole, as a part of the human being, as a part of the human race, I don't have to look like you. I don't have to sound like you. I don't have to like the same things you like. I don't have to agree with you half of the time. But at least I want the same things that you want. I want love. I want respect. And I have the right to exist.
Absolutely.
That life is a gift. And by just being here, I have that right to exist. So we have to start thinking more as a whole. I am part of this human race. I listened to this girl on the radio the other day. I'm not white or black. I'm not or male or female. I'm you. I'm who you are. I want the same things you want.
Exactly.
So I'm going to give you the last word because we almost done.
Okay.
What are you want to not just leave the LGBT community, but we want to leave the whole entire community as a whole, as human race. Think about yourself and what you want for your kids. This community wants the same thing.
Absolutely. One of the astronauts said, I don't remember which one it was, he said, when I was out there going around the Earth in my little space capsule, and I was looking at the Earth, I thought, I want to bring every freaking politician with any kind of power up here to take a look. Because that is one tiny little place. We are all on it. We're all in the same boat. We all have the exact same needs. The need to be loved, the need to be respected, the need to be secure, to feel secure, to not have our amygdalas rung nonstop. Life, for most other animals, is a moment of temporary, oh, what's that? Oh, okay, that's fine. And right now, people's amygdalas, the fear part of their brains, are being rung like a bell on purpose. Boom, 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 boom. You need to say, I'm not going to let that bell ring anymore. I'm going to find out for myself. I'm going to go meet some people who are not like me and find out what that, because you'll find out they're very much like you.
Yes. And they want the same thing you want.
And yes, there are predators in every single demographic, but they are by far the minority. There are laws against those things, and you don't have to pass any more laws. The laws already exist to take predators off the street, but there are very, very few of them in any of these cultures, or we're all just trying to get by, and we want to be able to look into each other's eyes and not see bigotry there, or anger there, or hatred there, or you're a demon there. We just want to be looked at like fellow sojourners on this fragile little blue ball.
So Kris, thank you.
Thank you
for getting out. Thank you, Christian, for sitting here with me this morning. Beautiful morning. And
you will give me the link so that I can put this up?
Yes.
Okay.
And just thank everyone for listening, everyone that is listening through VT Radio Universal. Have a wonderful, blessed, beautiful day, and enjoy your family, enjoy yourself, and think more abroad, think more globally, think more, I'm one with this person even when I don't look like this person. So You guys have a beautiful day here in
And
Siembra.
remember, you all know
Yazmin
somebody
Ford.
who is LGBTQIA. You
Yes.
all know whether are you a safe enough person for them to be able to
Yes.
tell you?
Yes.
Whatever you've been saying, if you are a safe person, you already know. If no one has told you, you might want to take a look.
Thank you, Kris.
Thank
And have a
you.
beautiful day. Thank you for
You
sitting
too.
here with
Thank
me.
you. Thank you, Christian.
My pleasure. Have a good day. Thanks,
You too.
everybody.